Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I want to take this time to welcome everybody. Hope you had a happy New Year's. Also, at this time, I'd like to introduce our new member of council, Nick Brewer. Welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So, I think the first thing on our agenda, we have to elect officers. So at this time, I'll open it up for nominees for chairman.
I'd like to nominate.
Okay,
I have a person I've been watching the past year, and I think he's stepped above most of us. He's done beyond what I have done the past year. I'm very confident in the way he comes to his decisions. I think he's a very fair person. I think he's a very open-minded person, and I think he would lead us in the right direction and listen to us and take our conversations into consideration for any decisions made to guide us through the next year. So I would like to nominate Councilman Albright to be our chair for next year.
okay. Have Mr. Albright, is there any other ones? None? At this time, I'll take a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, next is for vice chair. I'm going to open it up for our nominees.
I'd like to nominate Councilman Wheeler for vice chair.
Okay, is there any other ones? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All them. Okay, at this time, we need to switch.
Are you sure you want to do that? Be my neighbor.
Thank you, Kim. And thanks for the other council members for your vote of confidence. You all know we have an extremely busy year. Not that we haven't had busy years, but with the building of the jail and other projects, I think we'll find that this year will go pretty quick. Next on the agenda is board assignments. And I'd kind of have talked to some of you or know what I believe your wishes are on some of the board assignments that you've been on. And the auditor gave us a list of board assignments. I'd like to just kind of go through and kind of put some names with those and see if it's in agreement. Maybe make this procedure just a little quicker and easier. Thor, I'll start with you. Understand that you would still like to stay on the Plan Commission and on Solid Waste Board. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. Community Corrections, John, you stated that you would like to serve on that.
Yes, I've been there in the past. Like to serve on it.
And prior to that, Tim Comfort was on that. Also, John, a board we do not have listed here, and that's JDAI.
JDAI, Juvenile Delinquency Alternative Incentives. Meets quarterly, 4 times a year, and I would like to remain on that.
Okay. And then when we talked, I didn't know if you wanted to go on Joint Advisory Board, or that's a meeting basically with the Plan Department and the city over. If not, we can go on.
Why don't we go on?
Okay. So you're okay with those
Yes.
assignments? And then you were on LEPC, but the way I understand, you and Tom are gonna, he might take that.
Those 2 meetings were back to back, and Tom and I would meet each other as the meetings were adjourning and starting on it. And Tom and I talked, and Tom's willing to take both of them.
Okay, so are you okay with that, Tom?
Mhm.
LEPC and the EMA, well, that's not the EMA board, that's
Yeah.
EMA board,
Mhm.
okay? And then you're on the Personnel Committee.
Correct. I'm good to stay there. That's fine.
Any other committees?
That's all I have right now.
Okay,
Unless you need more.
Joan, you were on the Personnel Committee.
Correct,
You're on the Senior Citizens
correct.
Committee. And you have been asked if you had any interest in serving on the EDC board, is that correct?
I'll accept it.
Okay. Kim? Redevelopment Commission,
Yes.
and that's also a citizen who we've always appointed, Mike Schrader, and I would recommend that we keep that the same. You were on an EMS Oversight Committee. That meets about twice a year. And we would like to put you on that, Nick, if that's fine.
Sure.
Okay. Joint Advisory, we would like to put you in Kim's place on that, if that's fine.
Yep.
Okay. And then I would stay on Joint Advisory with you, Nick, on that. And then I would go on the Personnel Committee. Is there any other appointments?
If you want freed up from the Joint Advisory Committee, I wouldn't be opposed to taking that spot for you if you wanted to move out of that position. I'm just offering that, but it's up to you.
I would appreciate that, Thor.
Okay.
Okay, let's mark Thor in that also. Joint Advisory, thank you. There is other couple boards that we might be naming someone on at a little later date. We'll see if they develop. Isn't that correct, Kim?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have any issues with these appointments?
Who is on the Personnel Committee?
Tom Warner, Joan Western, and myself.
That's good.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to accept these assignments as presented?
I'll motion.
Okay, got a motion by Nick. Is there a second? Second by Kim, that we make the assignments as discussed. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed. Show it passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone. And from time to time, I would ask that if you have something going on within your assignment that you think would be interesting and the board needs to know, I'd ask that you give a short report during our meetings. Right.
Mr. Chairman, we need to, sorry, I need to back up a little bit. I don't know, are we doing Region 3A?
Yes, we are. And I did ask, thanks for catching that. It's not on here. I did ask Nick if he would serve on that. That's about 4 meetings a year. And they're actually pretty local out here at the old REMC, if I'm correct, or on Zoom. So Nick, would you take that?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion for that.
Make a motion.
Motion,
Second.
motion by Tom, a second by Kim, that Nick Brewer be our Region 3A representative. Thank you. Oh, everyone in favor, raise your right hand. Thanks for keeping me straight. Okay, we're going to change the agenda just a little bit. Next, we had the sheriff contract resolution. There's a couple changes to that needs to be looked over, so we're going to take that off the agenda today. Instead, we're going to move the jail project discussion up. Chad's got some time restraints this morning, so we'd like to have him present, and then he can get on his way. Mr. Commissioner?
Yep, so there really hasn't been anything significant that's changed since the last time we met. We have our guaranteed max price. We're still looking at the same interest rate of around 5%, 5.1%. I think that's, they keep saying that the market in December moved back in our favor for public projects. So we could be looking at less than 5%, but worst case scenario, we're thinking 5%. So in our last meeting, I had provided everyone with soft costs spreadsheet and the guaranteed max price spreadsheet. There has been some changes to the owner's soft cost that just happened yesterday, but it's really just a wash where some of the bond fees and attorney fees associated with bonding are listed on the owner's on the list as an owner responsibility and soft costs, and that has been moved to the bond cost. Baker Tilly had asked that we remove it from here because it's included in what's being bonded. So the bond number again is about 25.5, and what we'll realize from that is about 23.5, I believe. So, and I know that Jim, I believe you plan to call Matt Eckerly with some additional questions today. But I'm available if anyone has any questions.
Any questions on Chad? We do have our Standard & Poor's rating. That's coming up. What's the date on that?
Yeah, so that is coming up next Monday, I believe. I have it written next week, but I can give you a date here. Yeah, that's going to be Monday, the 9th at 10:30 a.m. And that was something that I know that Joan, Tom, Kim, and Jim have all expressed interest in participating in. We'll get a list of questions ahead of the call. And as soon as we get them, if you're not included, I know that I've asked them to include council, but it doesn't always happen. So we'll watch that closely. And if you guys aren't included, we'll get it sent to you quickly so that you can see it as fast as we do. And it's just kind of it's a list of questions so we can sort of prepare.
And the meeting with Baker Tilly is just going to be a phone call and hopefully get a hold of Matt. Just clarification of some of the changes. Looks like they were put in maybe the wrong column or something, and we get those changed so that we are comfortable with these figures, and we continue. This is a large project, as you know. We're wanting to break ground as soon as the weather permits. So keep this meeting, and everybody pray that we have a good sale on the bonds so they're under 5%.
And I will also report that currently in our correctional rehabilitation facilities tax, the 1233 lit, there's currently $4,114,975.97. So that continues to grow even as we're paying bills from that to Elevatus, which I believe we're nearly at our not to exceed amount with Elevatus, which was the plan. So those bills should stop soon.
Any questions on the jail project for Chad? You want to go ahead and give your commissioner's report then?
Sure.
If I
Go ahead.
could interject shortly before you go into that. With council's approval, I have a constituent here this morning. And I've heard from several constituents on some issues that they have with the jail project, and they feel like they're not having a voice in this process. And they're here and prepared to speak to council on that issue this morning, if we can allow that.
Any problem with that? Okay.
Kim Patterson, please.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kim Patterson. I'm here representing, myself and as a parent and a community member, and also my husband as a business owner. and many other people in the community that I feel have no idea that this project is even taking place. I understand that there's a need for a new jail, and I have no problem with that. It makes sense. The price tag, I understand things are expensive. It's great to plan ahead. However, the location chosen seemed like a complete just, the first time someone told me right there, I said, what on earth are they thinking about? So thoughts that my husband and I have had, and from different perspectives, and these are his. However, the question would be, do you see a jail is a good anchor for family-oriented business development? Okay, like insurance offices currently were the location you're thinking of. And for those of you who aren't aware of that, the location would be right behind the movie theater. Just insurance offices, chiropractor, medical, dental, offices, senior services, movie theater. Really? Okay, so most family-oriented businesses wouldn't choose to develop right next to a jail. They would avoid it. So do you think it's respectful of the current business community then to force this development on them? Also, do you feel that this project location is respectful to the patrons of those businesses? You have an opportunity to move a jail. Jails have traditionally been downtown by courthouses. That makes sense. But you have an opportunity to move it. Do you feel like from the, it's congested downtown, there's not enough parking, but you're choosing a neighborhood-like area. Connection, opportunity, those roads are not like downtown streets. They're curved, they're narrow, and it's more of a family-like community over there. There's family and community services for children through the elderly. Would you just choose a residential neighborhood to stick, a new jail? You say, oh, this is a great place. Let's just stick it in the middle of that where all these people come for different reasons. Other communities we've seen who have moved their jails from downtown often choose an industrial area. Makes a little more sense. The location also has some safety concerns. And we're not concerned about the safety of, the security of the inmates. We know that our local law enforcement does an excellent job. However, this location, this raises a lot of concerns with the visitors coming, the increased traffic, and also the speed of the law enforcement officers leaving the facility. The visitors coming to see these inmates, I believe years ago, there were maybe 40 people downtown in our jail, but it's increased. And this new facility has room for over 200, I believe, inmates. And you have visitors coming, and most of these people are upstanding citizens coming to visit, whatever family member has done something stupid and ended up there. However, some of these people that we put in our facilities here are traveling down this US 30 corridor, and they're coming from Chicago or California or Texas and traveling things, maybe even over the border, and we get stuck with these criminals. These aren't just somebody that, broke the speed limit too many times. It can be some serious stuff, and maybe their gang members, their boss, whoever it is coming to try to, help them in this position. We have to deal with that kind of citizenry. I mean, we can't just brush that under the rug. Not everyone is upstanding. And one of the things with the visitors that thought is a 4-H field trip that my boys took to the 911 call center. And it was a Saturday morning, so I'm guessing those are visitors' hours at the jail. And we were warned multiple times to keep the kids moving, do not make eye contact with those in the, whatever that means, for area is there. And to keep the kids away, don't talk to anybody, don't look at anybody, just keep moving. And that wasn't something I ever thought about prior to that, but it really stuck with me to think about the people that come into our community. Another issue with the location is just traffic, and it's not just from the visitors coming to see these inmates, but also semi trucks. This area, Connection Way, and Opportunity Drive, they have soft shoulders, there's no curbs or sidewalks. Drainage probably isn't what it should be. That again is more money that needs to be spent if you choose that location. At the recent zoning meeting, we were informed that the semi-traffic for this new project would be significant. Someone asked if a semi-truck could make a turn-off connection way onto Opportunity Drive, and the people there weren't sure. And their answer was, well, we'll just have to try it out for a few times, see if it'll work. It was also said at the zoning meeting that this facility is capable of significant expansion beyond this initial build. So if you plan for that traffic, if you've driven on those roads, it's not straight like downtown. It's not a crisscross pattern. It wasn't designed that way. It's just pretty calm back there. Also, a safety concern would be the speed of the law enforcement. What are your plans for protecting the patrons and the employees of all these businesses on Opportunity Drive and Connection Way when officers are on a hot run? Do you have maximum speed limits for them? Are there rules for them when they're leaving that facility? Do you realize that from where your drive would connect, there would be 4 stops and 4 turns before they could even get to 30? And you have elderly coming out of the senior center, teenagers coming out of movie theaters, families also coming out of those areas. There's a chiropractor's office. I mean, think about some of the people that often visit that. Their necks are stiff, their backs aren't feeling all that great. They're not moving that fast. So then you have people, drivers coming through quickly where it could be a nice relaxed area. And you only have, right now, you only have that one way in and out. I mean, that's one of the things to compare to a park. That's one of the complaints about Morges Park, that there's one way in and out. And here you're gonna have a jail facility with sheriff's deputies trying to get to an emergency on a highway. And you only have one way in and out. That just doesn't sound like a smart plan. Why not be closer to 30 and one of those future interchanges? Because the current location is, that the last time I heard of Lincoln Way and 30 is not one of the current or the future interchange locations for the US 30 project. Another thing about this whole thing that bothers us is just the community involvement. First time we heard anything was when my Don Armstrong approached my husband, or didn't approach him. He just dropped paperwork off at his office and said, please sign. And it was a piece of paper to, for the local businesses, the other ones in Armstrong Park to give consent for Don Armstrong to sell property within Armstrong Park. Of course, my husband's not going to sign a piece of paper when that doesn't give him any information. So of course he had to call, and it took quite a bit of a conversation to try to get any information out of Mr. Armstrong. Eventually he did mention the plan for a jail. So that plan was already set pretty much. Maybe it was already said and done there before you even agreed to purchase this property. You're all elected representatives of the people, so why don't they know? I've spoken to many people, and my husband keeps speaking to patients that come into the office. I speak to moms at the YMCA and other people there as well, and not one has been aware of this project. People are surprised, and then they're appalled by the location. And then many people say, well, I'm not dropping my teenage girls off at the movie theater. Again, if that's how it occurs, they feel like nothing that they would do would matter either. I had one mom just totally upset over the location and not having any information, but she says, it doesn't matter. They're going to do what they want to do. It doesn't matter if they have our input or not. So why haven't you been open with the community? Where newspaper articles, the school, we have a school, made big fanfare over a school. Everybody knew about the school this whole time. And also about here's the old land from the former school, and we're going to make this into a park. Oh, let's have community involvement. Oh, there's a survey. Let's do this. Let's do that. That I know of, there was really nothing for this. If this is what you call community planning, well, you're failing. Because a good, prosperous, growing community thinks ahead and makes good choices and involves its community members. As an example, Patterson Family Dentistry they have a lot between them and the senior center. And they've had they've been approached by several different companies that have wanted to come in and buy that land and build there. However, because of the type of traffic that some of these businesses would create, they turn that down. They're waiting for a more appropriate buyer. They're concerned about their neighbors. There's still a house right there, and also just the seniors in the senior center. That's a big deal right there. We'd like to take care of our seniors. And then what happens, you choose this location, which has only one entrance, one exit. There's a set of woods behind it that I've heard is protected, and they don't want to give anybody access. You're really trapped there. And what happens in another 15, 20 years, say this US 30 project is completed, and these deputies now feel they're too far from an interchange. You've stuck yourself in over there. So if I were to sum up your planning situation, it sounds like because of lack of information or communication with the public, sounds like you waited to the last minute. You're hurrying because you're worried about getting sued with the current jail situation, and then you choose a location based on a cheap land offer. Shows the location itself shows lack of respect for community members, businesses, and their patrons, and just disregard for their safety. And nothing against our law enforcement. Our law enforcement here does an excellent job. But I'm disappointed because I feel the community hasn't been properly informed or given the opportunity to provide input. But are you afraid to inform them? Or do you not respect our input? Well, I don't know. That's what I have to say. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
your
Kim.
time.
You want to address that any, Chad?
No, the only thing that I would say is the jail process has been going for 2 years. It's not being rushed by any stretch of the imagination. And it's been very public. There's been multiple articles in the local paper. I've sat with Rachel Hartman from Post and Mail. And so the information is available.
And all the land purchases and everything went through public meetings.
That's right. Recently, it even passed through the Columbia City Board of Zoning Appeals. So it's been a very public project.
Anyone else? Any comments?
I would just add that I agree because I've been part of that process and I understand, but I don't know that information probably gets disseminated to everyone that would like to have it. I can't lay fault on commissioners or council when we publish the things as we should, but I agree that I think there's some issues that have not been addressed with that neighborhood, and what are we going to do as far as expectations on the quality of the roads? Those streets are, there's no curbing there, there's no sidewalks, it's soft shoulders, and when you have trucks or multiple vehicles that are going to start cutting that corner more and more, I understand the concern on that. I understand the concern on probably a lot of those businesses wouldn't have bought there had Don Armstrong sold the land first, and the jail was the cornerstone building. So I sympathize with that point of view, and we're probably at a point in the process where that's a hard thing to look at, but there's a lot of things that go along with where it's going that I don't think have been addressed that we're going to have to address, and probably with a joint session with the city on development of that area to accommodate that additional traffic.
Anything else?
I would have to say, and it is difficult for getting news out to the public, because that's been a concern of mine also over the past 2 years. When I go to meetings or in a function, I have discussed this and I found the same. People didn't know about it. But how do you get that out to the public when people don't read the news? I mean, they don't listen to the news. They don't read the news. The only thing you have is Facebook. Well, that's not always the way to go. I don't know how you get that out to the public, because I have brought that up myself. And everything's been done that's supposed to be done to get it to the public, but if the public doesn't step forward and make themselves aware of it, I don't know what the answer is, because it is a concern.
But everything has been published.
Yes.
Notices to meetings, and so forth. I mean, I wasn't on here then, but I know that it's just like any project or anything. There has been public notices on the meetings. People do not read those, and so forth. There has been articles in the paper, and we are where we are now.
There was a good probably 2 to 3 years of discussion community-wide before anything was even taken, before the step was taken. And it was just a general conversation. I don't know the answer to it because it's a problem.
Part of the answer to it would be that we need to adjust our schedule and we need to have meetings that accommodate the public. And 8 o'clock on a Tuesday or Wednesday morning does not accommodate the majority of the public. And I've been trying for 6 years to change our meetings to evening meetings and being more responsible and more transparent to our constituents for that reason. And I think that's something that would help more people be able to be at our meetings and be informed. So I would ask the council again, when we look at that at the end of the year, that we take that into consideration and schedule our meetings for evenings.
Any others? Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Okay. Chad, do you want to go ahead with the commissioner's report?
Sure. In December, the commissioners came to you with a ask for purchase for engineering equipment. This would be for the drainage person. And you had asked if we could purchase that from CEDAT. So I took it back to the commissioners and it was decided that it would be more appropriate for us to make that purchase from CUMCAP. The money was allocated, so we went ahead and utilized that from the equipment line item in CUMCAP that by and large over the years has been unused or underutilized. So we thought it'd be more appropriate from that. Go
Excuse
ahead.
me a second. Brad, was you able to hold the price on that equipment?
Both suppliers have said that the price was good.
Great. Okay. Go ahead.
Yep, so the couple other things, I was gonna talk about the sheriff's contract, but you're already aware of that, so.
Chad, before you move on, I have a question about the CUMCAP.
Yep.
Have you checked into why drainage, we can't use drainage money on buying something like that when you're dealing with drainage problems?
I'm
Before
maybe
you
not
decided to take it out of CUMCAP?
So I'm maybe not the best person to ask about using the drainage funds, but Commissioner Basinger sits on the drainage board and is here today, so she'd want to speak to that.
Good morning. Yes, so every single watershed and drain has its own fund, and you can only spend those funds on that drain. You cannot spend it on anything else.
Looked into maybe a way that each drain could put X amount of dollars in it, in a different line item, just for something like that?
So unfortunately, every single drain, Jenny and Linda have to move every single drain. So to do that, it would be probably pennies out of hundreds of accounts. So I don't know if that's very labor intensive. I don't know if that would be the way to go. I mean, I don't know how long that would take them, but they run very lean in that office. So I would hate to take their attention away from everyday things and drainage issues and engineering issues to move 10 cents out of
No,
600.
you're setting a lot of money.
Right, but unfortunately, that state statute that you can only spend it on every single drain that.
I have several drains on my property and I wouldn't be opposed to putting $5 or $10 a year or $50 a year if I knew it was going to go to equipment to help my drains.
So to raise the taxes on any drain, you have to have a public hearing, and there's about 600 in the county, so we'd have to have about 600 public hearings to do that. So I know it's annoying, but unfortunately, that's just what the state's telling us we have to work with.
I would like to get with Kay. Kay, I don't know if you invest The drainage money, do you invest that? Draw interest on that? See, and I was wondering if we couldn't take part of that interest
So
money.
what they do is they have to go to every single account and they do that once a year and give interest to that. However, I don't know when that occurs and the drainage department needs this equipment now. We are struggling to get contractors and we actually just did our yearly bids and we are down because of this exact issue because we don't have this equipment because when the contractors go out to do the jobs that they bid on, it's nothing that they bid on and they've had to spend a lot more money and they've lost money on it. So it's a very big concern. The drainage board is concerned.
Well, what I was wondering is if we could take the interest, some of the interest off that money before they divide it up to each drain and start a fund that will accumulate, and as you need equipment, then maybe that money's there to replace that equipment that is used on all those drains. But that's something we can look at as the year goes on and see if we could use some of that funds to help build a fund. So when Brad needs equipment, the money's there and we don't have to go to Cume Cap or seed it to get that and the drains pay for it.
Sure.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The only other thing is that we recently approved a new policy manual, and there's issue with one decision that had been made related to PTO and using PTO hours to calculate regular hours for the purpose of paying out overtime pay. And so we heard from the highway department. In fact, we had the entire highway department in our meeting yesterday. And I'm not kidding, the entire highway department was here. And so we've asked payroll to put a pause on that one section of the policy manual. We have a meeting scheduled for later this week with a lot of the players, Sheriff's Department, Community Corrections, Highway. We'd love it if a member of council or two were available to sit in that as well, since both bodies will be approving any changes that may occur. But essentially, we've asked that we just stay with the 2022 policy until we can either confirm or amend the 23 rule
On that issue.
on that single issue. Yep, the rest of the policy manual stands. It's just that one single issue that came into question.
When is that meeting?
Friday morning at 9 a.m., I believe is when it's scheduled.
Anyone have any interest? I can attend that. Okay. Tom will. Tom and I'll attend that. And where will that be?
In meeting room C.
Meeting room C. Okay.
Chad, does that one issue just pertain to overtime or does it also pertain to days before or after holidays?
It would be both. It would be PTO and holiday pay.
So the new change, if someone took the day off before or after a holiday day, they wouldn't get credit for that holiday day?
No, they still would get credit for that holiday. We're saying if, like, for example, like if Monday is a holiday, under the old rule, those 8 hours would count toward their 37.5 and then also to their 40 if they were going to get overtime. Like if Monday's a holiday and then they get called in to work the roads on Saturday and they end up working more than 40 hours if you count that holiday where they didn't actually work. So we're looking at hours actually worked versus hours taken for holiday or PTO or bereavement or
So that
whatever
so
else.
It still wouldn't be if someone took a Thursday off for a Friday holiday, they would still get their holiday pay for that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they'd
Okay.
still receive their holiday pay.
And I had somebody ask me about that and I couldn't answer it, so thank you.
Yeah. Yep. They'd receive their PTO pay for the day before the holiday and they would receive their holiday pay as well. And that's under the new rule. But what we're saying is that we wouldn't count those hours for the purpose of calculating overtime pay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Chad?
No, that's all. And I have a little bit of time, so I'll stick around until I can.
Any questions for Chad? Okay, thank you. Well, Tiffany.
The sheriff's salary, I know that it's not about the wage, it's some verbiage in there. Excuse me, can we go ahead and at least approve the wages so we know that he's okay to
On the
move
salary
forward
ordinance.
with his, yes, it's included in the salary ordinance, but with what you guys, if you're okay with the amount that's in the contract, we just,
Oh,
as far as ask that that's done, that way payroll knows how to move forward with
on the
paying him.
sheriff.
Mhm.
I think the sheriff wants paid, so.
You want paid, Jason, or you gonna work for free?
First month free.
You said you wanted to start out new. I couldn't think of a nicer way to do it.
How do you have to do the additionals first? Because there's additionals in there.
Here, Do it. okay, we will take that up. We've got a little homework to do first before to do the salary ordinance, but we'll take care of you, Jason. Okay, additional appropriations.
On your first one, I can speak for circuit court. That is something that was in your guys' budget book, but for some reason, when I entered it in Gateway, I either didn't enter it or it didn't stick. So that's the 10,300 for their part-time. Again, you guys already approved it during budget time. I just didn't get it into Gateway.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Thor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second to approve the additional appropriation, 10,300 for circuit court. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
And the next one we have is for the health department. I know Scott's here if you have questions, but it's the same line item that you guys approved for the $500 that they use for the biggest user and for the health fair, things like that. It wasn't budgeted, so I just asked them to make sure that we budget that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Thor,
Second.
second by Kim, that we approve the $500 for the health department. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Show the unanimous vote for approval.
Your next one's gonna be for the salary ordinance changes. We've got a couple for highway. When the engineer came in, I was unaware of how much he was gonna be making, the highway director. We had to adjust for a spreadsheet. Head mechanic, foreman, and deputy prosecuting attorney are all ones that you guys changed after the gateway entries were made. So those are those entries. That give you a total of the 27,340.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Thor, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom, that we approve these additional salary appropriations. Discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those, same sign.
The next one's for redevelopment. They were unable to get with me before we did any entries into Gateway, so if we give me a final budget. So that is the $8,306,700 for their entire budget.
Frank Kessler, who normally does our budget, we just did not get it in. The budget changed very little, except for our capital projects. So we're asking for approval.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Motion by Kim. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. Discussion?
I just have one question. When I look through this, the first line item on that, the $4,200 for board member, we pay a salary for a board member for that.
We have a stipend that we pay for two of the board members, Mike Schrader and Frank Kessler.
Okay, so when it says board member, that's actually $4,200 for two people.
Yes.
That's two board members.
That's
We're paying that
correct.
stipend. Thank you for that.
And, yep, that's correct. If you're already a elected official, you're not eligible for that stipend. Good question.
I have nothing else.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the same.
And then the last one, we've got Paula, and I know she's here to speak on behalf of CARS.
Okay, Paula?
Good morning, happy new year. This is a grant that was approved after the budgets were submitted. It does include 2 additional positions, 1 full-time, 1 part-time. So my next step, once you approve the additional appropriation, will be to work with Jen and the personnel committee as far as approving the job descriptions and recruiting the position. I included the job descriptions in your packet, so you can review those and let me know if you have any questions or concerns once you have a job.
So you're just here explaining this today?
Today, I'm just requesting for the additional appropriation for the grant, the funds that were approved for the grant. Then I understand I need to go to personnel committee next before we can advertise to fill the position. So after that, I think I have to come back for the salary ordinance. Is that correct? So, if you want me real quick, the 2 positions are a part-time nurse. Right now, we do not have any medical staff out at the residential facility. Obviously, all of our participants are responsible for their own medical. This will just help with medication audits, TB tests, general health screenings upon intake. I worked with April and Heather as far as a part-time wage. I understand I need to get that approved for you. And then next, a full-time position is a reentry coordinator that will work on building our therapeutic model and work with Sean and the sheriff on the JCAP program for the jail.
So what, as we go forward, when the grant runs out, then what are we gonna do?
Yeah, so I put an email that when we offer the positions, they're gonna know it's a grant, so if the funds end, the position ends. I will not be coming to you to fund those positions.
Okay, you expected that question.
I did, I was ready
Okay.
for it.
Any other questions for Paula?
On the full, you have a part-time and a full-time. So how are the benefits covered under
Through
the
user
grant?
fees.
Okay,
So they'll fund the salary and then we have to fund the benefits through user fees.
okay, thank you.
And then the part-time, obviously, just like that. There'll be a part-time rate. I think they're recommended, Heather and April, like $31, which is above the part-time wage that you guys approved for 2023. So that will be an exception. But again, I don't want to request approval for that until I go to the personnel committee.
Motion approved.
Have a motion by Thor,
I'll second.
second by Joan that we approve this. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, passes unanimously.
Thanks, everyone on board.
Good questions. Any others?
That's it for.
That's it for additions. Good.
which then-
Okay, next is our salary ordinance. First ordinance of 23/01, 2023/01. And this will include the sheriff, right? And everything we just approved on the other.
Yes, the sheriff is good. They agreed upon for now. And then all the other ones, yes.
Yes.
So there's 2 forms to fill out for that one. That is approving the changes to the salary ordinance and then the signature page for the actual salary.
So I have 2 signature pages, one approving the changes we just made, and then approving the salary ordinance. Any questions?
I have questions, same questions I always ask them, I ask it again. Has there been any changes to the document as that's presented to us right now, different from anything that we approved in a workshop or meeting to set this salary ordinance in place? Thank you.
Any other questions? Your pleasure.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2023-01.
Second.
Have a motion by John, a second by, I missed that, Thor.
Yep.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, same. Passes unanimously.
Did say we have 2 areas to sign.
Yes. One, John, was for those changes that we approved prior to that, and then one for the salary ordinance itself. And I'm just gonna pass those 2 pages, if that's fine.
And I've had- this is all of them other than-
We'll find out, yeah. You ready? Next on the agenda is encumbrance of funds from last year. We have several. I do not know how you want to do this. Take them individually or,
And I know that Amy was here to speak on first after, just came in kind of last minute, so I don't know if you want to hear from people and then vote or how you'd like
Let's
to.
go one by one.
okay, one by one. You want to start?
We got Tiffany first. Is that where you're at?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
So I had 2 requests. I had one for supplies. We needed to order envelopes for our W-2s that need to go out. And then also for credit card charges that were not issued until we paid for the 11th. So we were paying it out. So I need to encumber those to be able to cover those charges for my office.
The one's $141,
And then 193.77.
$193.77.
And that one's not included in our packet, right?
Yes, it was. Oh, the
193.77.
No, sorry. Oh, yes, it was. It was on an email from accountability IBM.
I make a motion, we encumbrance those funds.
Motion by Tom, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kim that we encumber the 141 and the 193 for the auditor. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have one question on this, that first encumbrance, when we're talking about travel and mileage, I don't understand why there would be a receipt there for a local business. Why is that travel?
That was for on the way to conference. So we were allotted for lunches and all that on our travel days. It's very common.
Probably know what you're thinking. If they're in town, why do we need to buy their lunch? Normal
I mean,
work day.
We provide meals when we travel, if that's if that's accepted under our travel policy, that wouldn't be our issue. It would be a commissioner's issue to look at and see if it's been properly applied. So I'm not second guessing. I'm gonna stay in my lane here and let Chad in the auditor's office have that discussion. But if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. I'm just questioning why we have an in-town receipt for a travel expense. That's all I have.
Any other discussion? We have a motion, correct?
Motion made a second.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the same.
No, I have
One.
a form out.
Okay.
It's at the end.
Who you got next? Clerk. Cindy?
Morning.
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 First of all, I have two line items. One is from our election budget, and it's the operating supplies, No Ink. No Ink is one of our vendors that provide us with data, our spots for our poll pads. The other line item is the election, and it's for the election support that will pay for building the ballot, being support, just anything to do with support. Well, anyway, last election, our hotspots were having issues, and Jessica, it took her a while to even get them going. And of course, that's very important on election day that we don't have a disconnect on those hotspots. After talking to No Ink, they stated that they're just getting old. So a lot of counties were having this issue. So we're already trying to prepare for the presidential election. So I have what was left in my two line items was $7,095. The other one was $7,160. I'm not stating that I need to encumber all that, but I have an estimate of how much hotspots will cost, which is $8,560. And I would just like to go ahead and purchase this here so we can, like I say, we're gonna need some of these for the city election, which is quite smaller, but we still need to get these purchased.
How much was that amount? 8,000 and what?
$8,560.
It's on the back of your sheet.
And also, that's one issue. Another issue is, I don't know, you probably saw this when you voted, that each, in the clerk's office, during absentee voting and at the polls, there was called the VVPAT, which is a verifiable paper trail. And the state has mandated now that we have to use those. Now, we only had to use 10% in this election, but they are coming. We found out, we thought that it was going to be held off till 2024, but these machines are going to be coming, and we have a meeting with the commissioners on the storage of this stuff. But anyway, the state's going to be coming in, and they're going to be picking up old cases. They're going to charge us though. They're going to charge us for delivery. So I don't know what that price is going to be, how much it's going to cost the county. So I don't know if you want me to come back with additional, like when I get a bill with additional, or if this would be the time right now to ask for some additional funds since I have the money. I'm
I'd
not
rather
quite sure.
I would rather see the bill. I mean, that's
Okay,
just
all right.
me, so it's,
That's fine. I know that it's coming and they're gonna charge us because we were told we were gonna be charged. But the state's gonna be delivering them sometime, probably whenever we can get prepared with the location, for these, machines to be put in a secure location. So
So you're gonna buy those machines from the state?
they're giving it, no, they're giving it to us.
They're just gonna charge you for
Delivery, and to pick up everything old.
and
Yeah.
dispose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And on the hotspot 16, we'll do the whole county.
Yeah.
You won't need any more.
No,
That
well,
will-
I think we did purchase 2 or 3 extra.
So you have some
But
spares.
last year, because we had to, because some of them like, I think one of them died and we had to run one out to the, one of the locations. So,
So
this will get us by.
I have a quick question about that. With our Verizon plan, I believe we get free jetpacks. So are you mandated to use a
Yeah.
different? Okay,
Yes,
you,
yes.
you have,
this-
it's
this-
specified what you have to
Yeah.
use. Okay.
What's the life of your other?
Well, I
ones
think our
overall?
other ones were 4 years old.
So 16 enough to give you a couple spares?
I believe we have 2 or 3 extra right now, but at least for this year. And then if we find that, we need to get a couple more when we do the budget for 2024. But I believe this will be fine. This is what they recommend.
So are we looking for the 8560 right now? And then she comes back for additional appropriations?
I would make a motion to encumber $8,560 and let the remainder of $5,695 go into the county general.
Okay, have a motion by Thor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Kim, that we encumber 8560 and the balance goes in and she comes back later to ask for additional funds. Discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, show that
Thank
it
you.
passes unanimously. Thank you. Scott, Health Department?
Good morning.
Mine was the same.
So the part that we're
Mine
asking
was
is
the same.
contracted services. About 15 months ago, Nathan Bilger and I came before the commissioners of the council about a new permitting system that we're doing. It's taken this whole last year to get that up snuff for us to start using. And so we're transitioning from the old internet service to the new permitting system. And so there has to be a migration of data for those two things to happen. With the complication of the change of IT and the fact that the two companies don't speak the same language, we need to carry this money over for whatever we're going to do here in January, pay any bills extra on that. Plus, the building department won't be paying the old service anymore, so any bill occurred, the health department will pick that completely up on ourselves. Usually, it's 2/3 building department, 1/3 health department. But because they're not going to be using that service anymore, we'll have to get that bill. So that's why we're asking that money be carried over. I'm not sure that this will cover everything, but it will help.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Thor. There's second by John that we approve the 2460. Discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, show that it passes unanimously. Thank you, Scott.
So you did have one in your packet from the museum, and he was able to get that bill in and get it paid, so he is no longer needing that encumbrance.
Okay, the 2578. Okay, so the museum bill has been paid.
And then we have highway, which I think is this. If you'd like to speak on that.
Good morning. So I had attached some information there for you. If you will recall, we did ask to transfer outside of the series from one of our line items into, I believe it was contracted services to pay the balance for 2022, which is the maximum of 22,000 for engineering assessment for Lincoln Way. So the remainder on the invoice is $22,240, which will be payable in 2023, which is the amount that I'm requesting to encumber from our contracted services line item.
Any questions for Katie?
You won't need that money in contracted services for anything then?
Not that we have planned for. This would, we have other that's budgeted in that, but this
Okay.
would just cover that invoice that we have remaining to be paid.
And that was last year's money.
That was last year's money.
Yeah.
Right.
Make a motion that we approve.
Motion by Kim for approval. Second by Joan. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Katie.
Here's the signature sheet for all of those, and then we got another.
Okay, we have a signature sheet for what we just approved. And then we have another set. These are Amy's. Okay.
Good morning, Council. Amy Biggs, Whitley County Emergency Management. Coming before you today to request encumbered funds from 2022 to 2023. Provided a detailed list of each line item and specifically what those line items entail. The primary reason for the large amount of encumbered requests this year is a result of two specific pieces. We received grants for the large purchase of items of a hazmat trailer. And we also had the outfitting of the deputy director truck. Many of the items to outfit those particular pieces fall on the budget process for emergency management. We did not receive either one of those items until June and the other one in actually October. And so by the time we have ordered many of the outfitting products for those, there was a delay in manufacturer capability to get that. And now we're running into end of year installation costs and basically trying to get those done before the end of the year just wasn't possible. And many of the invoices that we have received to date, I just received one yesterday that I notified Tiffany about from J&K Communications. Work was ordered for an antenna back at County Highway. That was back in September. Just now received the bill on 12/29. So some of those issues outside of the vendor control and billing us for those items, that's where a large amount of the funds requested material come from. But I'm happy to go into detail. I tried to provide you with all the information and the invoices accordingly with each one of those items that I've requested material. So I'm happy to entertain any questions.
I've got just one, on one invoice, there's, it's for training, $400 an hour. Right? Or is it $400 a session?
I believe it's $400 a session, but I will double check that.
And that's, is it mandatory training? Do you get certified for that? Is it an annual? That's,
This, I believe, is the training invoice that I attached two of them. So $40 an hour, $40 cost for 220. I'm not sure the
there's
$400.
one there for $2,400.
$2,400. That's an incorporated 3 series part. That's $400 as it goes through each session. That's a 3-part series.
Okay.
Not really $400 a session. That's how we wrote it up. But this will be actually training that we had discussed as part of the safety committee back in mid-year and couldn't get it facilitated by the end of the year due to scheduling. In fact, we're having a problem with getting it scheduled for 2023 with some of the court dates that fall into place. So this will be an entire county employee training process, and it's going to be a 3-part series.
Okay.
So.
And so will it certify them or you have to renew it in so many
There's no
years?
certification that's necessary. This is something, again, that I'll provide more details. I'm really excited about it, honestly, if you want to hear it. This is a de-escalation and a preparedness training.
Okay.
There is not a certification that comes out of it, but there has been a high interest from many of the county employees to my department, to the head of security, to the safety team that has an interest in increasing the level of awareness from a risk versus a threat and de-escalation actions that they could be able to take in those kind of situations. It's been something that's, again, been requested multiple times from courthouse employees and from government center employees. And I believe it's necessary to address those issues and better prepare us in an effective way.
So you could have 50 to 100 employees at these? Then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We're actually scheduling them to be 2 trainings per day. And we put it at an hour, but obviously that could open up for additional questions.
Yep.
We're going to do one, we've coordinated with the schedules of the other departments. We'll do one at 8 a.m. in the morning, and we'll do another one at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that'll allow all the employees, hopefully some of those smaller departments that only have 2 people, they can send 1 per session and be able to come out and attend that training.
Okay. All right. That was the only question I had on all of
Are
it.
we allowed to come to that? Absolutely. I would encourage anybody that has an interest in understanding the dynamics of risk versus threat, because that is different. And in a way to manage and de-escalate the situation, whether that's a confrontation, whether that's somebody that is aggressive in nature, and we'll be teaching ways and manners to be able to deal with
Could
that.
you add council to your communication?
Absolutely. We'll develop a flyer and that will go out. We'll probably have an electronic invite, but I'll leave a standing opening for all of you at each session.
I'm a little confused. Maybe I heard wrong. You said you want to encumber this, and I thought you said you didn't, it was gonna be hard to get dates.
Well, we tried to get dates by the end of the year, and many of the courthouse was booked. Cammie's been assisting me with the courthouse.
Okay, you
employees
mean with county employees and
Correct,
not these people?
right, with the schedule of the individuals from the county.
Okay, and if you go over an hour session,
No additional charge.
okay,
This gentleman understands, he's conducted trainings all across the state of Indiana and nationally with government organizations, law enforcement specific and outside of that. He's trained many businesses and is responsible for most of the schools in our area.
well, one of my concerns as I read this was if you take especially 50, 75, 100 people, try to get them organized, get them going, I hope you get your hour in. I'm afraid it'll turn down to
Sure.
45 minutes and so forth, and
He's completely committed and has dealt with government before. So he said, whatever's necessary to do to be able to accomplish the employees. It's not going to be a required training. I highly encourage all of our employees to be able to attend this training because I think it is going to be extremely well thought out and received, and hopefully will give them some understanding to some of the ways they can.
And then, well, that's the only question I have on that. The be prepared,
Yes, sir.
the date on these is January and March of last year.
Yes, he held pricing for those, as a matter of fact, because again, scheduling the process for, if you aren't aware, the safety committee is rewriting the entire emergency operations plan. And it's been something that's been being handled by all the members that attend the safety committee. And in that, we identified individuals that have volunteered without any additional pay or stipend to be a part of the response team for county government. So we're looking at individuals that would need training on fire extinguisher use and also AED and CPR training. And that individual has held their cost in order to be able to train those people that have volunteered to perform in that function for county government. And again, one reason it wasn't conducted last year is, again, we hadn't formed that group of individuals that had volunteered. We're looking at individuals on each floor to be that emergency response team, if you will, who will enact themselves when there's a medical emergency, potential fire or evacuation necessary, or lockdown.
The only other thing I've heard, Amy, is that this is pretty common for you to turn in late ones,
I did try to,
also from your committee people.
yes,
So I would say it saves a lot of work if we get these things timely. The other question I would have, is there any late fees to any of these?
no, sir.
Okay,
And I kept in good communication. I actually, I acknowledge that 100%. I've done my best. I tried to communicate with Tiffany and push these vendors to try to get me information. And I had to actually have a meeting with J&K last week to try to finalize, and actually we negotiated a lower cost to what would have been proposed. So
But-
I appreciate your consideration and understanding and knowledge.
well, when I hear it from not only the auditor, but some people that serve on your committees, that some of them might be you dragging your feet and create more work for other departments. I don't want to see that. I don't think any of us do. So please, in the future, make sure that you're timely on those.
Absolutely.
Tiffany says the total amount is $34,206.42.
That's correct, sir.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Thor to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by John. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the same. Passes.
Thank you, Council. Appreciate it. This one doesn't have a signature, so if you just want to flip it over, you can sign it back.
Put this right here.
Yeah, that's fine. You can mark it in there.
On this last one, we'll just sign on the front page. I'll put yay.
Is it-
Chad is left, so
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to back up. I think before the commissioners can pay for that equipment out of Cum Cap, we need to prove that.
okay,
So I make a motion that we go ahead and prove the commissioners to take the money out of Cum Cap to pay for the locator, transmitter, all equipment that the engineer department needs.
okay. Second by Tom. Discussion. This was out of their, or is this year's budget?
It'll come out of this year's because it's not been paid for yet.
Okay. Just clarification, this is not an encumbrance.
No.
It'd be out of this year's budget. So have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the same. Anything else?
Minutes.
Minutes, yes. They're buried here. We have two sets of minutes. One is our regular December 6th meeting of 2022. Any changes, additions, corrections?
Motion to approve the minutes as written.
Motion by John to approve the minutes of December 26th as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Thor. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the same. Next is December 27th. Short minutes.
And at yesterday's commissioner meeting, Attorney Shipman stated that since there was only one commissioner, that I needed to change the verbiage to just being a council meeting with a commissioner present instead of the joint. So you'll see that that is different on here than what you were sent. And the commissioner's signature lines I had removed, it's just council then. Since how they didn't make any votes.
And they didn't have enough members to be a quorum, so. So December 27th, 2022 minutes. Your pleasure.
I make the motion to accept.
Motion by Tom to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kim. That hurt you, didn't it? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, to say. Okay. We'll open up for any public comments. Dale?
Hi, Dale Book, Woodley County Economic Development. A couple of things I just wanted to just make a comment, not asking for anything. First of all, Councilperson Brewer, I work with Region 3A quite a bit, so I'm happy to make an introduction and kind of bring you up to speed on that.
Great.
And along with Commissioner Basinger as the commissioner's representative, I think there's a lot of things that I'm working with Region 3A on as far as grants for Woodley County, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, as the Economic Development Corporation has been working, on rural broadband in the county, as you've seen in the past, Commissioner Basinger has brought Serpent here. She and I are working a lot more closely together, and I want to put a team together, kind of cross-functional across the county of businesses and community members. And that's something I'm working with her on. So in the future, you will see me, and along with the commissioner, bring more of a formal maybe presentation on where we're at. May or may not include SURF, but it will be more of a formal presentation. It could be a tax abatement situation where it may indeed come back to the request for ARPA funds. But just wanted you to know that we're working closely together on this issue.
Question?
Yes.
I haven't stopped to talk to anybody, but I noticed in South Whitley, the old Dollar General store has a business in it now. Is there any, have you made any contact, or is there anything
Yes,
they
so
can look for on there, or?
is anything in specific? Yeah, I mean, we the South Whitley redevelopments worked with them a little bit. It's a very interesting. It's kind of more in the medical device field, and just a handful of employees to start, but pretty good paying jobs and really important for South Whitley.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure they made contact and we were doing what we could for them.
Yeah, they have, that gentleman has also been working with Nathan and his team.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I know, Teresa, you wanted time?
So just to point out, I did request to be on the agenda about a month ago and I was removed, so the deal can be discussed. So I just wanted you guys to know that I didn't wait too long to be on the agenda. So I know some of you have requested some more information from SURF and about the actual plan and the phases and how all of that would be built out. So everyone got two valuable booklets. This one right here is the entire plan and a list of every single address that will be serviced by them. And then here, I know some of you had brought up that you were worried about the credibility. So there's some letters from other communities that have worked with them, just explaining their experience. Some have actually used some of their ARPA funds and they explained that how well that worked out for the communities. So I encourage you to reach out to those other elected officials, and they are not from another state, they're right from this area. So if you'd like to do that, there's some letters of support in there as well. And then also, I don't think it was ever brought to anyone's attention because it was so last minute, but Representative Chris Judy, Representative Chris Abbott, and Senator Amy Day did write a letter of support to this for the project. It was not included in this because it came, I think, a couple days before it was due, so they overnighted it to DC so it could get there for the grant process. We're still in the grant process. So next month, SURF and I will be here to ask for the allocation because obviously it's contingent upon our county's involvement in that financially. As you remember, if you do not contribute off the top 15% of the grant funding, or 15% of the grant scoring is taken away. The way the grant was written is it's written that we're going to, if you guys would approve the 1.7 from ARPA funds, 1.7 million from ARPA funds, and 3.5 million from SURF from their own private funding. And the grant would be $5 million from the federal government, and that grant award will come out in March. So they will be back here next month. So if you guys have any more questions from them, everyone has Jane's contact information. I encourage you to reach out to them. If you have any questions of me, I'm always open to answer any questions you have. I think only one of you has ever reached out to me over the last 6 months. So if anybody has any final questions, I'd love to answer those. And I also did want to point out, I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to go through the entire new comp plan. You guys remember it literally was years in the making. And after all of the back and forth with all of these stakeholders, I just wanted to point out that better broadband for our county is listed as a high priority. To be proactive in developing affordable and widely available broadband internet connectivity throughout the county for both businesses and residents. So I just wanted to point that out. Does anyone have any questions of me?
Yes, I do. Will the commissioners be ready to make a approval to the council or disapproval
We already
at our
did
next
in
meeting?
We already did in the ARPA plan that we approved.
Okay.
When was that done, Teresa?
When was it done? Was it the beginning of December, Tiffany? I believe it was the end of November. It was when Andy Boxberger was here and Attorney Shipman. They were here to answer your questions.
I think I would like to see an updated approval since the face of the commissioners have changed. And I'd like to make sure we still have that approval in place, that you guys are behind it. Just as a housekeeping detail.
So you want a new ARPA plan because we have a new commissioner? Is that what you're saying?
I think we want a more direct approval from commissioners that they're in support of this project. That's what you're saying, aren't you, Thor?
Yes, thank you for reiterating that for me. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, so you guys want additional, so obviously Commissioner Banks is not in favor of it. So are you looking for unanimous support of this, or, I mean?
That's for you all to discuss. I don't think it's part of this.
Well, I will try my best to do that, but we do need a vote in February because that grant funding, the $5 million grant, is going to be awarded in March, and we cannot wait any longer. So I will go back to the other commissioners and see if we can get that put together in the short amount of time.
Then Teresa, I have a question. I read through those books. I got mine. Teresa had them and she gave them to me. On the one where it talks so much about LaPorte County, I didn't see any figures of the dollars. I mean, they're a huge county. They have 110,000 people. And obviously they got more residential areas than Whitley County does. But I didn't see any figures of what dollars.
Did you reach out to them?
No, I did not.
Okay.
But I thought that report would talk about the amount of investment and if there was any ARPA funds. That's one thing I thought the report lacked when I read through it, was specifics. I mean, to me, anybody can write a letter of support. It's what happens, and a lot of that is letters of support, but I want to see them, and I think the council does, the nuts and bolts of what was contributed by the counties and so forth in that. But that's just when I read through it. I'll read through it again, but we would probably like to see more specifics of actual what was spent on those things.
So I just want to voice that I'm a little frustrated because we've been doing this now for 6 months and no one ever has any questions until I get here and the bar keeps being moved. And that's how I feel. And this is a $1.7 million grant, and we just had another department in the county ask for around the same amount and gave you guys a 30-minute presentation, and you guys made a vote on it. So I feel like this has been treated very unfairly. If you guys don't support it, then let's have the vote, and then you guys can answer your constituents. But I feel like the bar has continually been moved, and I feel like this project has not been treated fairly. Every time I come back, there's another issue or someone has a question that has not been answered. I'm just a little frustrated.
I don't believe, I think it was brought to you that we needed a recommendation from the commissioners, and I don't believe we've ever
Was that in the minutes?
gotten that.
Was that in the minutes?
That was from last August, I believe.
So I think that's been pretty standard.
So again, that would go back to the ARPA plan, which I'm aware it was not approved unanimously, but it was approved, and it only takes 2 of us to do that. Obviously, you guys don't all agree on everything all the time. So if you want us to come forward and say, we all support this, I mean, obviously, Commissioner Banks has been very vocal that he does not, for his own reasons. So I will get with them and see if we can get a revised plan in that short amount of time. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Any other comments from the public? Hearing none. Commissioner Barrett?
I have none.
Councilman.
Everybody
Councilwoman.
always fumbles that. I have nothing.
Councilman Hodges.
I have nothing.
New Councilman Brewer.
I have nothing.
Councilman Warner.
I have nothing else.
Councilman Wheeler.
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you for your staff for the work on the meeting. I have nothing at this time except let's make it a good year. It's going to be a busy year, like I stated, and let's have fun. Thank you. Meeting's adjourned.